expect the Spanish Inquisition. It's headfirst only television.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello to Riako Music. And it's Thursday. Come on, you know what day it is. It's Christmas Eve. If you're celebrating, or if you're working, or if you're just generally being yourself, then have a lovely time. And I hope wherever you are, you're staying safe and staying sane. Good evening, Atitlan 66. Good evening to you. Merry Christmas indeed. Riako Music has noticed the jumper. Do you like the jumper? Let's go to shelf cam, which I now have all configured. There you go. How about that? Huh? Quick twirl. I got this one a couple of years ago, and it's a favourite because it does get a reaction. So, how are we all? Are we all doing okay? Are we all healthy? Are we all sane, or as sane as we can be in these ridiculous times? If you're new to the show, then hello, I'm Chris, otherwise known as Head First Only, or HFO for short, hence the HFO cam up there in the corner. You may notice this slight change in the look and feel today, and that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about this week. I discovered the delights of lookup tables in OBS's filters section, and I'll explain what a lookup table is and what I'm doing with them a bit later on. A bit later on, I will also be revealing how you can get your hands on a couple of really quite nifty free VST plugins for your DAW of choice. And I've been rather taken by one of them, the other one less so, but I'm still going to use it. And best of all, I have a free Christmas gift for you, which I will be launching later on live on the show this evening, which is awaiting me clicking the button that says published, and then you can go and help yourselves to it and see what you think. Riako Music says, well done you. Thank you, Mel. That's most kind. Atitlan66 says, did you pick up the freebie Juno filter as an effect from Arturia? Oh, yes, I did. I certainly did. I've installed it. I haven't really played with it much, but that's probably because this little baby has pretty much the same chorus on it. In fact, that and that both do as well. And I always used to turn it off because certainly on the Juno 60, if you were rehearsing live for Higher Array of Emotions, if you were rehearsing live and we stopped for a break to discuss how we were going to perform a certain number in the set, and the PA was going, then everybody would turn around and look at me, and I'd turn off the chorus on the Juno. I want to come back to the sweater, and I'll show you something. I've got a sort of demo lined up, which is one of the reasons why I thought, I need something suitably garish. Do I have anything suitably garish in my wardrobe? Well, of course I do. It's Head First Only. What do you expect? But we'll come to that in a minute. So, new followers, hello. If you're watching but haven't followed me, I'd really like it if you did follow me, because it all helps the algorithm. I'm gradually climbing towards affiliate level. I'm getting a couple of new followers every week, which is lovely, and hello to those followers. So hello there. And if you're watching the edited version of this, which has really informative captions, and I spend a good 3 hours editing and captioning each version of the show that I make, then it'd be really helpful if you clicked on the subscribe button. also very helpful if you click the little like button down there, and if you subscribe and you click on the bell button, then you get emails or whatever the messaging technique is that lets you know when I post new content on the channel that I'm on. And at the moment I'm chucking out about 3 hours of content a week. I'm actually streaming more than that, because what I've started doing, and what I will be doing probably a lot in the next month, is just streaming when I'm working in here, so people can just put the stream on, listen to it, don't have to interact. So that's the YouTube out of the way, that's the Twitch out of the way. What else? This little devil. I have some news. I took the nuclear option in actually doing something that was very popular in the first half of the last century, which was called writing a letter. It's like email, but you basically stick it on a dead tree and then put it in a box somewhere out in the street, where it magically gets transported to the person that you want to send it to. So I did this to the UK distributor of Moore, and was polite and said, look guys, I'd really like this fixed because I'm kind of depending on it. It's part of my guitar sound. And posted it off. Lo and behold, I got an email back from Strings and Things, who are the UK distributor for Moore. Not only did I get a email from Strings and Things, I got an email from Strings and Things director. And top marks for customer service, because the first thing he said was, that is not very good and we normally do a lot better. So they are going to get in touch with me, or he's going to get their service guy in touch with me when they all come back from the Christmas break. So should be getting it fixed, hopefully. Keep your fingers crossed, because I really missed it. I have to say, it's like, oh, I just want, that preset. Can't do it anymore. So Ryako Music says, nice. And that was my thought as well. Array of Emotion says, nice to hear you've had a good week. Mine has been less than great. Yeah, I heard. Commiserations, but I'm sure you will bounce back from this. So I will be keeping my fingers crossed for you. And if anybody's watching needs somebody who's really top in web design and related industry know-how, give Array of Emotions a shout, because he knows his stuff. Right, after all this, I'm exhausted. So what I'm going to do is play you one of the pieces of music that I've been feverishly polishing to a blinding shine before releasing it on headfirstonly.bandcamp.com in about an hour's time. And if I go over to screen share, then... Right, Array of Emotions wants to clarify that he is currently more of a project manager, but yes, thanks for the shout out. So there you go. So there are many strings to Array of Emotions' bow. Okay, this is, what is this? This is Torpid. Again, you notice it says version 2 at the top, because this album, more than any of the albums that I've done so far, I've really started being very, very much more critical about whether what I've done cuts it or not. And I do that mainly by putting the headphones on when I've gone to bed and just dozing and listening to what's going on. And effectively, it's a good way of doing it, because if something stands out enough to make me wake up again, it's like, right, that's wrong. Now, that's not to say that my music is explicitly designed to send you to sleep. It's just that I find it's a good way of assessing whether it's coherent and smooth and mellow and nice and everything else. And with a lot of these tracks, I've been able to go back and go, oh, right, okay, that guitar solo needs redoing, or that needs to be a lot less in the mix, and that needs to be higher, and oh dear, I really did put a lot of reverb on that. And as Ryako Music says, being critical is the first step towards improvement. You can get too much of a good thing, to the point where there are 3 or 4 tracks on this album where eventually, after doing remixing and re-recording and moving things around, which is why these markers on Ableton are an absolute godsend, and I just went, no, I hate it, and started again. So I did on this one. This is Torpid. So that is Torpid, the new version, and as I was demonstrating, the Complete Control S88 is really useful because the keys light up to tell you what it was that you played. Ryako Music says, I really like that high-pitched synth. You probably already have it, I think, this one. Glorious. I mean, it's drenched in Valhalla Supermassive because the whole album is basically Valhalla Supermassive is my default plugin as a reverb. If you go to Valhalla's site, Valhalla DSP, you can download it for free, and you really need it as part of your DAW. If you're into immense washes of sound, then Valhalla's supermassive reverb modulation effect is the business. The high-pitched synth that was being fed into Valhalla's supermassive reverb is another free instrument. This one is from the lovely people at Spitfire Audio. It's one of their Labs series of instruments. It's the Handbells plugin, and kind of been saving it because I wanted something high frequency to cut through on this, because I use tonal balance control to look at my mixes when I'm doing these things, and don't know whether it's my age now that I'm 60 or the fact that I spent my childhood going to heavy metal concerts, but I really struggle hearing high frequency sounds. And I would, as a kid, I would freak my parents out by going, there's a bat over there, and pointing behind me, and they'd look and there would be, because I could hear it. But sadly that doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, high frequency Handbells Labs plugin, really, really great. I'm kind of pleased with the way that turned out. I've been warming up. Ryako Music said she liked the piano playing. Next month's free album, and yes, I'm doing this every month. What I'm doing, basically, with buying the fancy keyboard and a copy of Complete, I suddenly found myself with 76-ish, 77 now, and I'll come on to that in a minute, new pieces of DAW software, instruments, effects processors, you name it. And it was like, okay, how do I teach myself all this? And we're back to the paradox of choice, which is the more things that you have to choose from when you want to do a specific thing with one of them, the harder it is to make a decision which one you're going to use. So this month, for the album that I'm releasing in about 3/4 of an hour, which is called Decembering and will be pay what you want on headfirstonly.bandcamp.com, I made the decision that I was just going to teach myself 2 instruments, and they're both in the Contact Play series of instruments from Native Instruments. There's this one, which is called Ethereal Earth, which is a lot of blown, fluty, breathy, noisy stuff, and some quite nice stuff. It can get a little bit carried away, and I find I'm tweaking a lot. But although you can't see it on this instance of the plugin, when you normally run it as a plugin, there's a little dice button where the mouse cursor is that I'm pointing at. And that's a randomized feature which the Play series have. And for the last week or so, I've really been mashing that randomized button and going, yeah, no, don't like that. Yeah, no, don't like that. Yeah, don't like that. And I think this is actually one patch that I came up with where I went, oh, you know what? I like that. I'll use that in a track. So I tend to use a texture or a timbre of a synth patch as my muse, as my inspiration, going, okay, what can I do with this? Oh, I know. And so if I play you this particular one, you can see on the plugin it's got an A side and a B side. So you have two different samples that you can blend together and treat and mash together. And on the A side I've got air piano, and on the B side I've got one called Temple Horn, Misses. And that was, in the bass side, what drove this track, because I came up with a bass line. It's like, oh, I like that. It's got a sort of vocal sound to it. Atitlan 66 says, bit Mellotron-y, that sound. Yeah, effectively what they're doing is just making their own samples and giving them the sort of looping, tapey type Mellotron treatment. In fact, there is an effect that you can drop on the Ethereal Earth plugin that actually gives you tape flutter, which is quite cute. Then, aside from the Ethereal Earth, there should be somewhere in here, there's Pigments, which is one of my go-to synthesizers, which I use inordinately all the time because it's absolutely bloody brilliant. The piano is, frankly, just Arturia's Piano 5, which again is lovely. I am becoming an increasing Arturia fanboy. Well, I always have been since I bought V Collection 6, and it's now on V Collection 8, which I haven't bought yet. And there's another Arturia emulation. So you can see my strategy of using Ethereal Earth and hybrid keys went completely out the window with this track. But there is, I think there is. Is there a hybrid keys? No, Abbey Road. No, DX7. So yeah, I haven't used hybrid keys on this one at all. So what? Don't care. I love the idea of just limiting yourself to one or two musical instruments. So this month has been hybrid keys and Ethereal Earth. Next month I'm gonna go nuts because I have ended up with 5 new piano emulations, which are all instruments in contact. There's the Gentleman, there's the Grandeur, there's the Giant, there's Noir, and there's Una Corda. And there may be another one that I can't remember the name of, but I'll probably remember it in a bit and go, oh yeah. But anyway, so next month's album will be titled Spontaneous Grand Pianos, which is about it's quantum theory and the idea that if you have an inordinately large amount of time, because the universe is full of virtual particles and pairs of particles popping into existence and then annihilating each other and disappearing again. And this happens all the time in every square meter of the entire universe. And given sufficient lengths of time, slightly more complicated things than single atoms might pop into existence. The idea comes from Boltzmann brains, which was a theoretical argument saying given enough time, a functional brain could pop into existence that might then imagine all the surroundings that it was experiencing. And it's a philosophical argument, the idea being that in an infinitely long universe, then the odds that you are in fact a Boltzmann brain just imagining what's going on are actually a lot smaller than the odds of you actually being a human being living on Earth. It's kind of a parallel to the simulation argument, and as Atitlan says, the infinite improbability drive, watch out for the whales. That's what Douglas Adams was riffing on when he wrote that particular sequence in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I love. This was the 70s. He was way ahead of the pack. So anyway, the idea that somebody I was watching on YouTube last weekend said, well, yeah, you could also have a spontaneous grand pianos. And it was like, That is such a good album name. I'm stealing that. And I have done, and I will. So there we go. Right. So that's Torpid. So that's track 3 on the album. Right. As promised, I'm going to baffle you with science now because I want to show off my 4-way shot, and I want to draw your attention to the fact that my jumper changes colour. Now, okay, some of that is down to the fact that certainly this webcam down here is very, very cheap and not very effective at recording authentic colours. In fact, looking at my jumper and then looking at all those cameras up there, I think it's actually the shelf cam that is giving an impression that is closest to what I'm seeing actually in this room compared to the others. And I decided last week that that was kind of bugging me and really not something that I was prepared to put up with. Atitlan says, if you're really unlucky, spontaneous bagpipes. There is, and I will put the link up in YouTube afterwards. There is a bagpiper who lives in San Francisco, and there is a YouTube video of her at the Central Park Jazz Fest from a few years ago, absolutely shredding in a jazz number on a set of bagpipes. And I will never look at bagpipes in the same light again. I started playing with filters on the cameras on my feed. Now, I'm not going to do it live because basically if I cut to the scene where I can edit the filters on the camera, none of those scenes have sound, so it would all disappear. But effectively, if you're in OBS Studio, you can add a number of different filters to a scene. So I haven't even got I haven't even got a screen set up as a scene in OBS, which is probably just as well. So anyway, color correction is fairly simple. You can do things like change the amount of saturation in an image, and I can do this with this image because what I can do is I can add a filter and say color correction, and then if I go to my screen share, okay, so here's my little window with my camera. So what I can do is I can do things like change the gamma, which is a bit like the overall gain. It's a cleverer, slightly different way of adjusting brightness. So I can whack that up and it goes all glary, or I can have it really low. I can mess with the contrast and make it horribly high or really quite low. Oh, that's quite interesting. It actually goes into negative values. How cool is that? That's for the that will be for my Hawkwind set later on this month. Tickets now available at all major outlets. Brightness, yeah, you kind of get the idea. So I'm going to whack that back to defaults. But one of the other things that you can do is I shouldn't have closed that. So let me go back to my main screen. Instant solarization. And Wobby, good evening. Sorry I'm late. That's fine, mate. So yes, what you can do if I go back to screen share and main camera is you can add something called a lookup table. So I'm going to get rid of that color correction filter. Yes, please. Okay, so there is a filter in OBS called Apply LUT. LUT stands for Look Up Table. Apologies if you know this stuff already, but basically when you're working in video, displays, printers, anything else can't represent all the colour space that is available of combinations of red, green and blue. So what you can do if your camera has a very sort of skewed colour space is that you can manipulate it mathematically. So what you say to your computer is that if the RGB value that you receive from the camera is this hexadecimal figure, then convert it to this hexadecimal figure. And these lookup tables are normally like a three-dimensional cube because they're known as three-dimensional lookup tables. And turns out that some helpful little soul has produced scads of lookup tables that mimic the color grading of specific, very, very widely used types of cinefilm. So, for instance, if I click Browse, I have a directory on my machine of dozens of different lookup tables. So, for instance, if I want my camera to have the same color space that it would if it was a film camera shooting on Ektachrome E1000, or in fact, let's go for the Eastman color ones. There we go. So we'll go for XX negative 5 minutes, and if I click on that, it changes how the camera looks. How cool is that? And I can make it like all that treatment, or a bit of that treatment, or none of that treatment, and basically dick around with how the reds behave and the blues behave and the greens behave and everything else. And it's really cool and it's highly addictive. And I spent hours playing with that over the last week, and have been going round Googling LUT tables for OBS, and they're astonishing. So this is why all my cameras look a bit different, because I've basically sat here, looked at what I was wearing, and then gone through on each of the cameras to go, yes, that's kind of more like the right colour, and some are better than others. There's a bit too bright, that really, isn't it? I really need to change the brightness on that. But the tripod cam, it's it's not great, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was without me using a lookup table on it. So that's kind of why it all looks a bit more cinematic and a bit not your average sort of 20 quid webcam thing. So lookup tables in OBS, worth your time having a bit of a play. That's the nerdery bit out of the way. Okay, it's going to be more sensible, more musicy now. So what I'm going to do now is, while just talk amongst yourselves for a bit, because what I'm going to do is just create a new live set in Ableton, because what I want to talk about is free stuff. And yes, you're listening now, aren't you? I have been very, very astutely watching all the main instrument manufacturers' websites and mailing lists and email lists for Christmas freebies. And as Atticlan already pointed out, Arturia got in there first with an emulation of the chorus section out of a Juno 6, which is, well, the original's a bit noisy, but it is one of the most fabulous chorus effects that you can find on the web. You familiar with Sample Logic? Well, they've brought out a rather nice taiko drum instrument. So what I'm going to do is load up Complete Control, and I'm going to play it to you so you can hear what it sounds like. So I need to go to my native instruments and drop Complete Control in there. And then I'm going to have to go to Files because it's not fully NKI compatible. But that's okay. We can deal with that because I have, as one does, a Native Instruments user library, because you need one when you start putting lots of instruments onto your computer. And I really should have a quick access link to that, and I will make a note of doing that by the next show, because I should have thought of that. So, Taste the Fury, Sample Logic, there it is. You get a taiko drum ensemble when it's thought about it. So there's the plugin. You don't exactly get a lot of potential in it. Shall we say that? If I go to Studio Cam, you can see exactly how much of the keyboard is lit up. It's that little bit there. So you get 6 different iterations. But, you know, I'm not complaining. That sounds amazing. So rather liked that one. Haven't used it yet because it has to fight with a number of other fairly extensive orchestral percussion, dramatic, cinematic percussion. Yeah, and look at that. This is one of the things that I don't like about Crippleware, is that it basically starts giving you adverts. So let's remove that, shall we? And this is a much, much nicer instrument. And I can actually open this one using my keyboard. How cool is that? So this is from the nice people who made this keyboard, and it's a contact instrument, but it will play in your contact player, which is free. And this is a musical instrument, as you can see if I share. It's called the Yangtsin, and it's a Chinese hammered dulcimer. And oh boy. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's fully functional. It's stuffed with different voices. I love this one. Attilan66 says that sounds great. I'll tell you what, I mean, you notice when I play certain keys, it does extra stuff that they call ornaments. So you don't get a single note, but you only get it on certain keys, and you can turn those off. So if I turn ornaments off, what you can do instead is that you can actually use the modulation wheel on your controller to initiate effectively trills. So again, I'll switch back to the studio cam and show you what I'm doing. So Ryako Music says, sorry, I stopped away for a bit. What is this instrument? Well, this is the Yangtzin from Native Instruments. It is a freebie that Native Instruments are giving away for the next few days. Don't know how long it's going to be available for, but if you have a Native Instruments account, go over to Native Instruments and just click the free download and it will be added to your Native Access program. Now, therein lies a tale, because I was planning on showing you how it appears in the Native Access application. Only there is a problem with Native Access at the moment. If I run it, it crashes. Well, it kind of does crash and it doesn't crash, because what it does is the window pops up on my third display, which is quite good fun because I only have 2 monitors. And if I use the Windows trick of Windows key and Shift and left arrow to move the display window for aforesaid Native Access program to my left-hand monitor or my right-hand monitor, it doesn't work. It will pop up on my right-hand monitor and it's a blank window. And no matter how many times I hit Windows key Shift left, it won't go any further onto my left-hand monitor. And this is just bizarre. So I reinstalled Native Instruments, Native Access. Didn't make any difference. Went online, said, oh yeah, there's problems with NVIDIA video drivers. So I thought, really? Okay. So reinstalled me video drivers. No effect. Still crashes every time I run it. And then I found out what the solution is. And the solution, mad as it is that I had to physically disconnect my right-hand monitor to run Native Access. And it works perfectly if I've only got one monitor connected. How's that work? So it's only started doing it since I last upgraded the drivers on my NVIDIA card, and I'm hoping that the next time that NVIDIA update their drivers, that it fixes the problem. But it's a pain in the backside at the moment. It really is. But having said that, yeah, go over to the Native Instruments. Yes, you also get half price on a number of Native Instruments packages, and you can enter a giveaway to win a very, very sexy looking machine, plus the completely, absolutely everything version of Complete 13. A very nice Complete Control M32, which is my keyboard's baby brother, and a tractor control. So I have entered, as you can bet your sweet bippy I've entered, and keep your fingers crossed, because that would be rather nice. We've already mentioned the Juno 6 Chorus plugin. That's only available as a free download until December the 29th. So get your paws on that one, sharpish like. Right, I'm going to talk amongst yourselves again while I load in yet another version of another track, which I don't think you've heard at all. So you didn't even hear the original version of this. It's another track that I basically listened while I was trying to get to sleep a couple of days ago, and didn't like it, so started it from scratch and ended up with a completely different song to the song that I wanted to write. And this one uses Break Tweaker, and if you're intrigued by Break Tweaker in this, if you head on over to Plugin Boutique, you can pick up Isotope's Break Tweaker for the princely sum of, I think it's like £8.50 at the moment. It's let's have a look, shall we? I'll just talk amongst yourself for a minute while I just go over to Plugin Boutique, and I can tell you exactly how much they're selling it for. I know Mel's got it already, but it is bonkers fun. And I've got a couple of Matt Moss albums, and I was playing with Break Tweaker this week, and it was like, oh, I've turned into Matt Moss. It was very, very strange. I suddenly realised how they'd done quite a lot of their music. Right. So here we go. What have we got? Let's take you over so you can see what I'm looking at rather than me just staring vacantly into space. Here are... Oh, have they changed the deals? So, you can pick up Iris 2, which Atitlan talked me into getting, and it is brilliant for £8.95 at the moment. And I would heavily encourage you to go and get yourself a copy of that at that price, because that is 93% off, which is ridiculous. So yeah, they've changed it now. So they've... Oh right, so Insight 2 is 35 quid at the moment, which is a bit better than 140 quid, isn't it? And I use that now on all my mastering. So again, if you're in the market for a few mastering plugins, that's a pretty darn good deal, if you ask me. Oh right, so it's... Oh, there you go. Break Tweaker expanded, which means the original Break Tweaker, which is 171 quid there, but you get everything else, and you get the 4 expansion packs with loads more patterns. £8.95. Knock yourselves out, folks. Go grab that as quick as you can, because I have been having ridiculous amounts of fun with it. It's brilliant. And lo and behold, now that I've finished waffling, Ryako Music says it works so well in parts of my Metropolis score. Wobby says I cleaned myself out on Black Friday. I ended up buying BBC Symphony Core on Black Friday, so that's wiped me out for the foreseeable, I think. But it was worth it. This is another track where I started off with a bass line and then built everything around it. The trouble was with this that I then put Break Tweaker into the middle section, and liked Break Tweaker's effect so much that I thought, well, rest of the track sounds a bit boring now, so start again then. So I did. And this is version 2 of Saturnalia, which now features very, very heavily processed Break Tweaker and Superior Drummer 3 and a whole bunch of Complete Control synths, and it's still in there somewhere. I'm still adhering to my approach of making sure to use one or more of the 2 instruments in each of the tracks on this album. Hybrid keys in this case, and the hybrid keys, it's much more sort of piano-y than Ethereal Earth is. So what I've got here is house organ blended with a dynamic 7-foot grand piano. So, ooh, nice. Sounds like this. So it's been a bit crushed a bit, and it's been tweaked quite heavily by me, and there are effects and a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and then it gets dropped into Native Instruments realm. And yes, I know I could have dropped the plugin into Complete Control so I could then control everything from the keyboard, but I wanted to fiddle about with it more, and I got more control of it as a separate instrument. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm going to shut up now, and I'm just going to play you this. So this is Saturnalia. So that was Saturnalia, named after the Roman festival that happened at this time of year, where the Romans really used to let their hair down. And this is a family show, so let's not go into that just now, and do not encourage your children to Google Saturnalia. Yeah, I enjoyed that. It's, as I said on the chat, there has to be at least one track in every album that I do where I wheeled out the dodgy blues guitar solo and just basically hit record and saw what happened, and it's like, yeah, that'll do. So cheesiness abounds in terms of my melodic choices for soloing, but again, I'm back to the Zoom G3 and the Vernon Reid Livid patch with a bit of Digitech Bad Monkey overdrive, making the signal going into it really hot, which adds really, really, really nice harmonic distortion that works just as well on guitars as it does on bass. The bass, as you saw, I thought, yeah, I'm just gonna do MIDI and play it on the complete control. Then I don't have to get out of my chair. I can literally just wheel this and go. And it's like the sound you get from that is like, what? Why did I bother spending 20 years learning how to play? He said, that thing, this thing here, you know, that's Mark King funkiness. Now I just MIDI, boom, 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 and it does exactly the same thing, which is kind of frustrating in a way, but it's like very, very, very time saving, because I think that entire bass line took me about 5 minutes. In fact, well, what's the track? 4 minutes, 40 seconds. Yeah, it took about 5 minutes. So, yeah, lots of guitar, a whole bunch of MIDI synths, and then up at the top, Superior Drummer 3, which is and it hasn't upgraded, so I can actually show you what kit I used. I think it was the electronics kit. Yes, it was. So it's very much sort of glitchy, circuit bent. Lovely, eh? And dropped into another one of my favourite plugins, which is on both, which is Isotopes Trash 2, which just makes everything... Any synthesizer, if you drop Isotopes Trash 2 on it, it will wake it up better than a shot of espresso. It really will. I love it. So that's Saturnalia. I'm going to play you one more track from the album, and then I'll launch the album and I'll let you guys go and do Christmassy stuff, because it's Christmas Eve, and why are you sitting here watching a fat old bald bloke blather on about what he's done on his music for the last month? But despite this, I am really glad you're here. It's very nice to hang out with you guys and see your comments in the chat. Right, what am I going to play you? I'm going to play you the final track on the album. And again, this went on for a bit, but it got bigger and bigger and more grandiose. And I was listening to it this afternoon, just about to upload it, and I was listening to, and you know how you sort of subconsciously and not at all aware you're doing it, count along to your music. And it's like, you know, there's going to be 4 bars, you know, there's going to be a middle 8, you know, there's going to be another 4 bars or something else. And it got to the end and it was like, blah, blah, blah. It was like, where's the last 4 bars? And messed the ending up. I hadn't counted the ending. So there are not 4 dramatic crescendo chords. There were only 3. This does not work for me. So this last minute revision, and it really was last minute revision, pushed the album over the 60 minutes mark. So you get an hour, I think it's about an hour and 50 odd minutes of music on the album as it stands now that I've recorded the whole lot. This has an awful lot of piano on it. So this, kind of nice to finish with this, because there's a lot of piano that will then move into me spontaneous grand piano albums next month. And again, we're back to those lovely, lovely people at Spitfire Audio, because I started, set myself the challenge, had to be using Complete Control, had to be using Contact, and no. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use Arturia's grand piano. Did I then weaken in my resolve and think, I really should put something in? Yes, I did. Hybrid Keys takes over the piano role for the middle section, and what that sounds like is this. When the sound engine's got its act together. So it's a very mellow piano blended with a synthesizer pad. Again, yes, I've drenched it in reverb. That is being doubled by another one of what has become one of my favourite little packages. Again, it's one of Spitfire Audio's 29 quid jobs. This is the Olivier Patrick's Wader sound pack, which has lots of pianos. It has lots of other stuff on it. It's kind of a really nice soundtracky cinematic toolkit, if you like, and the pianos in it are gorgeous because they've been treated, so you get this. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just really mellow and distant, and I really like it's sort of the closing movements of Gustav Holst's piano Planet Suite. Realised that had kind of been an unconscious influence in the quieter moments of this album, and yeah, I just love it. So that's the Olivia Patrick's Vader or OPW toolkit, Spitfire Audio, 29 quid, 29 euros, 29 bucks. It's well worth your money. And, well, I'll just play you what I've come up with. This is Glacial, because it's slow and unstoppable and stately and powerful, and disappearing rapidly thanks to anthropogenic climate change. But hey ho. though I say it myself, that is how you finish an album, ladies and gentlemen. That is the closing track on, what's it called? Oh yeah, Decembering, which is my free Pay What You Want album that I will be bringing out now, strangely enough. Okay, let's go over first thing, the cover reveal. Now, I posted a picture of my conservatory roof on Facebook when we got a really, really hard frost a couple of weeks ago, and Wobby said, well, there's your album cover. And she actually mocked up a version of it, and I had to laugh because I'd already done this one. I flipped it and made it a bit darker and a bit more contrasty. And as always, every release I've ever done pretty much on Bandcamp uses that same font. And if you're thinking, well, it kind of looks familiar, there are two reasons why it might. The first is that it's the font that that Peter Gabriel used on at least his first 4 albums, possibly more. But if you've ever bought a Volkswagen, it may also be familiar in that respect, because the font, or the typeface, to use the proper typesetter's term, is Volkswagen Audi Group Bold. So, yeah, VAG rounded, it's known as. And, yeah, I would rather like that. And it's serendipity. I thought, look, that's crying out to be an album cover. So there is me album cover. That is the album cover. So now all that remains, if I just close down Ableton, is to head on over to Bandcamp, and here's the album. It's going to be Pay What You Want. I've set Disequilibrium, which I haven't played you tonight, which was the first track that I wrote on the album. But there are 12 pieces of music. You've heard 3 of them tonight. So there's 3/4 of the album waiting for you to discover what I've done to it that sounds different from how it was when I last played it on the stream. But there we go. It needs to be public, and there we go. The album is now live on Bandcamp, so you can find it at headfirstonly.bandcamp.com and help yourselves. You really do not have to pay money for it. I just like people to listen to it. The French Doggy, hello. You made it. The album is live, so it's waiting for you to download. That was a month's work, and I mean a proper month's work. But along with Geometry of Sleep and an Eric Tulpas, which you can still find on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon Music and Tidal and Deezer and all of the other streaming platforms that play my music, and I have yet to see a single cent in income from any of them, compared with putting stuff out on Bandcamp, where I'm doing quite nicely, thank you very much. It's certainly keeping me in DVDs, Blu-rays and CDs at the moment. So Revelation says, congrats on another release. Yeah, that's 3 this year. So really, really quite proud of myself for doing that. I'm going to continue because tier 3, what else is there to do? I will be performing a live set at VEM 7.0, which starts at 9 Universal Coordinated Time, UTC, on Wednesday the 30th of December. So I started writing what I'm going to be performing this evening, and I have no idea, but I'm going to take tomorrow off. I have a fridge full of parsnips, carrots, Brussels sprouts, potatoes, brandy butter, Christmas pudding, and a very, very nice chicken joint. I'm not roasting. I mean, it's just me. What's the point buying a whole chicken and roasting it and everything else. And I have a bottle of Bucks Fizz chilling in the fridge, so I am going to have a rather nice but somewhat solitary Christmas tomorrow. Those of you in Europe who have already unwrapped their presents, I hope you got some really, really nice presents, and I hope that you will enjoy them. If you've yet to open your presents, then have a lovely day tomorrow. Don't eat too much, drink too much. It's Christmas. I mean, it's not like we're going anywhere. And whatever you're doing, please feel free on that side. There it is, all that up there. Please feel free to avail yourself of this album, and if you haven't already got it, The Geometry of Sleep, which you can see in the link If I Get Rid of Me, is actually there on the screen. Look. And in fact, if you're taken by the music that I do, there's quite a lot of it on Bandcamp, because I've been doing this for a while. Not all of those are albums, but quite a few of them are. There are some singles, there are some EPs, there are some very, very complicated and ornate prog rock extravaganzas. There's bits that I basically got my computer to perform for me by using the follow actions in Ableton, which is that one there called Generator. And as you can see, Decembering is now up there at the top of the list, and it's there for you, free download. Pay what you want if you want to. I'm totally cool with you not paying anything. Just grab the music. I just want to get my music in between people's ears. That's kind of my mission, because I hope that will help make the suck a little less horrible than it is for everybody at the moment. Some of us more than others. But yeah. And that's kind of me done. Not done for the year. So I will be back on Sunday with the Is It Form Yet show. Which reminds me, I haven't actually said how many days. We're less than 40 days now. 39 days until February album writing month starts again. And we can all go nuts and start using the plugins and the instruments and the new desks and whatever else that we might have acquired since last February, and make some darn good music and really, really enjoy ourselves and take joy in just creating stuff, because that's what February album writing month is all about. Riaka Music says, I'm already nuts. Yeah, join the club, mate. I just decided that being nuts was an easier way of dealing with the complex realities of a country that has basically just been sold off hook, line and sinker to the rich, and the rest of us will just have to deal with the fallout of a very, very poor deal. I suppose at least we got a deal that our buffoon-in-chief has managed to pull out of his backside at the last minute, and will now be insufferable about it, you can bet. But anyway, let's get rid of that. The French Doggy says, will you do a form show like the 5090 show? Oh, you bet. And as before, what I will do, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I'm just going to figure out, not that it makes the slightest difference in terms of what day of the week it is, but I'm just thinking, if I'm not streaming on the 1st of February, so the 1st of February is, hang on, I'll share my screen, then you can see it too. So the 1st of February is a Monday. Hurrah! What that means is that I can write the theme tune for the Sunday show the day after the Is It Form Yet show, when I do a show that is No, It's Tomorrow. I can write the song on Monday as my first song for February album writing month 2021. And then shoot the video and have that ready to go by the next Sunday, and do a show on Thursday that will basically be, this is what I'm doing so far. And probably the next week I will then do another, because the HFO television show, the theme tune that started off the show tonight, I think was the first track that I wrote for 5090 this year. So it's about time I got a new theme tune, really, isn't it, as well? So I'll do that for February. Because I now have this available to actually use for its designed purpose, which is as a film camera, and I'm going to use it. So I will do a new version of me. It won't be the Is It Form Yet show. It will be the It's Form show. And I'll do a new version of the HFO television theme tune. So I've got to find more rhymes for television. And Riako Music says Rhyme Zone is, and Wobby says Love Rhyme Zone. And Atitlan says Dead Tree Rhyme Zone. That's exactly what it is. And I've been using Rhyme Zone for years. And even though I've been doing instrumentals this year, I've been on Rhyme Zone going, what other winter words can I use? Because it does synonyms and antonyms and related words and everything like that. Fantastic resource. So just Google Rhyme Zone, all one word, if you've not used it. As a songwriter, you will use it. I guarantee it. It's a brilliant resource. But that's me done, really. So, oh, crikey. So that was an hour and 3/4. How did that happen? Thank you for sharing part of your Christmas with me. That's much appreciated. Whatever you're doing over the next few days, wear a damn mask if you're going out. If you're staying in, have a lovely, 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 lovely time. And I will be back on Sunday with the Is It Form Yet show, because that's kind of what I do. And in the meantime, I will be studiously writing a set that I'm going to be performing that will be about 30 minutes long on the 30th of December from 2100 GMT or UTC or whatever. I'm not sure when I am on the bill, but I'll probably be on sometime 11ish, as far as I'm aware. Could change. I'll let you know when I know more. But Atitlan says, as usual, thanks. Enjoy your Christmas. You too, Richard. Have a absolutely stonkingly good Christmas this year, as best you can. And the same goes to all you others. So the French Doggy, Riako, and Array of Emotions, and anyone else who's in the stream lurking, as I know a few people do from time to time. Until then, stay well, stay sane, stay safe, and I will see you with maybe more music, because I'm me. And have a lovely Christmas. And I'll see you on Sunday. So, Merry Christmas, one and all. God bless us, everyone.